Chapter 9 Adjectives and Adverbs. Page number 110. Adjectives are single words, exciting, new, thorough, and compound, hardworking, well organized, that modify nouns. We can use them before nouns. The new teacher has exciting ideas, or after linking verbs such as be and seem. She's hardworking, and her classes seem thorough and well organized. Adverbs are words, always, really, thoroughly, thoroughly, that modify verbs. Adjectives are the adverbs and sentences. She always does everything really thoroughly and seems totally dedicated to her job. 1. Read through this magazine article and find 1. Another example of an adverb modifying an adjective. 2. A set of 3 adjectives before a noun. 지연아, 할아버지. 이거 할아버지 갖다 드려. 할아버지. 할아버지. The ancient Chinese art of feng shui has been adopted by modern designers as a way of creating environments which feel comfortable and harmonious. Originally developed as a means of planning the perfect agricultural system in harmony with the forces of nature, feng shui has been used for centuries to improve the physical surroundings in which people live and to maintain balance in their lives. Those principles of feng shui that are beneficial in the organization of outdoor environments can also be used in the design of areas inside the house, such as the bedroom, which is considered to be the most important room in the house. Finding the best position for the bed is very important. The main rule of bed positioning is never to have the foot of the bed directly facing the door. That is what is known as the death position. Traditionally, the dead were laid out with their feet pointing towards the door to give them better access to heaven. It also made it easier for the living to carry them out. Ideally, you should position the bed diagonally opposite the door, with the head against the wall, not a window. Avoid putting the bed directly under a horizontal beam that seems to cut across the sleeper. Such a position is believed to cause headaches and even illness. Small tables on both sides, not just one side, at the head of the bed help maintain balance, but it is best to avoid cluttering the room with a lot of furniture. Let air flow easily through the space. Those large heavy wooden wardrobes with boxes or suitcases stored on top are a really bad idea. As they tower over the bed, they can make the sleeper feel vulnerable and cause a restless sleep. Do not position tables or other furniture with pointed edges facing the sleepers, as their negative energy will cause health problems. The bedroom should be kept as a relaxing space and should not be used for work or as an office. There should be a feeling of lightness, not seriousness, in the air. Blue curtains and bed covers are more soothing than brown ones. Soft natural materials are recommended. With feng shui in your bedroom, you can create a peaceful sanctuary from the stresses of contemporary living. 2. Using adjectives and adverbs from the feng shui text. Complete summary. You can use feng shui to make your bedroom a sanctuary. Finding the best position for the bed is very important. It should be diagonally opposite the door, not directly under a horizontal beam, and with the head against the wall. You can have small tables on both sides of the head of the bed, but avoid large wardrobes or furniture with pointed edges facing the sleeper. Blue curtains and bed covers made from soft natural materials are also recommended. Page number 111. Adjectives: emphasizing, describing, classifying. Emphasizing adjectives. Emphasizing adjectives are restrictive or intensifying. We use restrictive adjectives when we talk about something as special or unique. 1. We use intensifying adjectives to reinforce the meaning of the noun. 2. We usually put restrictive before intensifying. 3. 1. Safety is my chief concern. Safety is my chief concern. Our main problems are financial. Try to give a specific reason. Try to give a specific reason. 2. I haven't played before. I'm an absolute beginner. The meeting was a complete waste of time. 3. The boy was the only real hero in the story. The boy was the only real hero in the story. Maria got 100%, which was the first perfect score. 3. Find the two emphasizing adjectives in the text on page 110 and add them to this list of examples. One is in the first paragraph and the other is in the third paragraph. Restrictive, cheap, exact, first, major, only, principal, sole, specific, main, intensifying, absolute, complete, entire, extreme, real, sure, total, order, perfect. The ancient Chinese art of feng shui has been adopted by modern designers as a way of creating environments which feel comfortable and harmonious. Originally developed as a means of planning the perfect agricultural system in harmony with the forces of nature, feng shui has been used for centuries to improve the physical surroundings in which people live and to maintain balance in their lives. Those principles of feng shui that are beneficial in the organization of outdoor environments can also be used in the design of areas inside the house, such as the bedroom, which is considered to be the most important room in the house. Those principles of feng shui that are beneficial in the organization of outdoor environments can also be used in the design of areas inside the house, such as the bedroom, which is considered to be the most important room in the house. Finding the best position for the bed is very important. The main rule of bed positioning is never to have the foot of the bed directly facing the door. That is what is known as the death position. Traditionally, the dead were laid out with their feet pointing towards the door to give them better access to heaven. It also made it easier for the living to carry them out. Ideally, you should position the bed diagonally opposite the door, with the head against the wall, not a window. Avoid putting the bed directly under a horizontal beam that seems to cut across the sleeper. Such a position is believed to cause headaches and even illness. Small tables on both sides, not just one side, at the head of the bed, help maintain balance, but it is best to avoid cluttering the room with a lot of furniture. Let air flow easily through the space. Those large heavy wooden wardrobes, often with boxes or cases stored on top, are a really bad idea. As they tower over the bed, they can make the sleeper feel vulnerable and cause a restless sleep. Do not position tables or other furniture with pointed edges facing the sleeper, as their negative energy will cause health problems. Do not position tables or other furniture with pointed edges facing the sleeper, as their negative energy will cause health problems. The bedroom should be kept as a relaxing space. The bedroom should be kept as a relaxing space and should not be used for work or as an office. There should be a feeling of lightness, not seriousness, in the air. There should be a feeling of lightness, not seriousness, in the air. Blue curtains and bed covers are more soothing than brown ones. Soft natural materials are recommended. With Feng Shui in your bedroom, you can create a peaceful sanctuary from the stresses of contemporary living. Describing adjectives. When you use more than one adjective to describe someone or something, we usually put them in the order presented in the table below, with age, old, before color, green, etc. Note that this is the normal order, but it is not the only possible order. When you use more than one adjective to describe someone or something, we usually put them in the order presented in the table below, with age, old, before color, green, etc. Note that this is the normal order, but it is not the only possible order. 4. I loved that old green sofa with the lovely round seats and the big soft cushions. I loved that old green sofa with the lovely round seats and the big soft cushions. We can often use describing adjectives with different meanings depending on the context. We can often use describing adjectives with different meanings depending on the context. 5. The Smiths live in a modest home near Canterbury. Modest means not very large or expensive. Jill is a very modest young woman. Modest means shy or not willing to talk about her own abilities. 4. Find one example of each type of describing adjective in the text on page 110 and add it to the correct list below. Opinion, size, physical quality, age or time, shape, color. Opinion, opinion, excellent, lovely, ugly, comfortable, harmonious, beneficial, important, best, better, easier, bad, vulnerable, restless, negative, soothing, peaceful. Size, big, huge, long, tiny, small, large. Physical quality, dry, hot, light, heavy, soft. Age or time, new, old, recent, young, ancient, modern, contemporary. Shape, circular, round, spiky, square, pointed, horizontal. Color, green, pink, red, yellow, blue, brown. Classifying adjectives. When you use more than one adjective to classify someone or something, when you use more than the ancient Chinese art of Feng Shui has been adopted by modern designers as a way of creating environments which feel comfortable and harmonious. Originally developed as a means of planning the perfect agricultural system in harmony with the forces of nature, Feng Shui has been used for centuries to improve the physical surroundings in which people live and to maintain balance in their lives. Those principles of Feng Shui that are beneficial in the organization of outdoor environments can also be used in the design of areas inside the house, such as the bedroom, which is considered to be the most important room in the house. Those principles of Feng Shui that are beneficial in the organization of outdoor environments can also be used in the design of areas inside the house, such as the bedroom, which is considered to be the most important room in the house. Finding the best position for the bed is very important. The manual of bed positioning is never to have the foot of the bed directly facing the door. That is what is known as the death position. Traditionally, the dead were laid out with their feet pointing towards the door to give them better access to heaven. It also made it easier for the living to carry them out. Ideally, you should position the bed diagonally opposite the door, with the head against the wall, not a window. Avoid putting the bed directly under a horizontal beam that seems to cut across the sleeper. Such a position is believed to cause headaches and even illness. Small tables on both sides, not just one side, at the head of the bed, help maintain balance, but it is best to avoid cluttering the room with a lot of furniture. Let air flow easily through the space. Those large heavy wooden wardrobes, often with boxes or cases stored on top, are a really bad idea. As they tower over the bed, they can make the sleeper feel vulnerable and cause a restless sleep. Do not position tables or other furniture with pointed edges facing the sleeper, as their negative energy will cause health problems. Do not position tables or other furniture with pointed edges facing the sleeper, as their negative energy will cause health problems. The bedroom should be kept as a relaxing space. The bedroom should be kept as a relaxing space and should not be used for work or as an office. There should be a feeling of lightness, not seriousness, in the air. There should be a feeling of lightness, not seriousness in the air. Blue curtains and bed covers are more soothing than brown ones. Soft natural materials are recommended. With feng shui in your bedroom, you can create a peaceful sanctuary from the stresses of contemporary living. Classifying adjectives. When you use more than one adjective to classify someone or something, when you use more than one adjective to classify someone or something, we usually put them in the order presented in the table below, with material, nylon, before purpose, learning, etc. Note that this is the normal order, but it is not the only possible order. 6. I hate nylon running shirt. I hate nylon running shirt. I hate nylon running shirt. It's Southern French style. We found the Victorian medical text. 5. Found one example of each type of classifying adjective in the text on page 110 and add it to the correct list below. Location. 5. Found one example of each type of classifying adjective in the text on page 110 and add it to the correct list below. Location. Origin or source. Origin or source. Origin or source. Material. Type. Purpose. 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 Location. Distant. Indoor. Southern. West. Outdoor. Origin or source. African. French. Muslim. Victorian. Chinese. Chinese. Material. Leather. Metal. Nylon. Nylon. Plastic. Wood. Type. Economy. Medical. Scientific. Scientific. Agricultural. Agricultural. Physical. Physical. Horizontal. Horizontal. Natural. Purpose. Camping. Learning. Swimming. Relaxing. Purpose. Camping. Learning. Swimming. Relaxing. The ancient Chinese art of Feng Shui has been adopted by modern designers as a way of creating environments which feel comfortable and harmonious. Originally developed as a means of planning the perfect agricultural system in harmony with the forces of nature, Feng Shui has been used for centuries to improve the physical surroundings in which people live and to maintain balance in their lives. Originally developed as a means of planning the perfect agricultural system in harmony with the forces of nature, Feng Shui has been used for centuries to improve the physical surroundings in which people live and to maintain balance in their lives. Those principles of Feng Shui that are beneficial in the organization of outdoor environments, those principles of Feng Shui that are beneficial in the organization of outdoor environments can also be used in the design of areas inside the house, such as the bedroom, which is considered to be the most important room in the house. Finding the best position for the bed is very important. Finding the best position for the bed is very important. The main rule of bed positioning is never to have the foot of the bed directly facing the door. That is what is known as the desk position. That is what is known as the desk position. Traditionally, the dead were laid out with their feet pointing towards the door to give them better access to heaven. It also made it easier for the living to carry them out. Ideally, you should position the bed diagonally opposite the door, with the head against the wall, not a window. Avoid putting the bed directly under a horizontal beam that seems to cut across the sleeper. Such a position is believed to cause headaches and even illness. Small tables on both sides, not just one side, at the head of the bed help maintain balance, but it is best to avoid cluttering the room with a lot of furniture. Let air flow easily through the space. Those large heavy wooden wardrobes, often with boxes or suitcases stored on top, are a really bad idea. Those large heavy wooden wardrobes, often with boxes or suitcases stored on top, are a really bad idea. As they tower over the bed, they can make the sleeper feel vulnerable and cause a restless sleep. Do not position tables or other furniture with pointed edges facing the sleeper, as their negative energy will cause health problems. The bedroom should be kept as a relaxing space and should not be used for work or as an office. There should be a feeling of lightness, not seriousness, in the air. Blue curtains and bed covers are more soothing than brown ones. Soft natural materials are recommended. With Feng Shui in your bedroom, you can create a peaceful sanctuary from the stresses of contemporary living. Page number 112. Adjectives. Position and punctuation. Position. We usually use adjectives before nouns. 1. Or after linking verbs such as be and seem. 2. I had an amusing experience. They faced enormous challenges. He has a kind, honest face. He has a kind, honest face. Don't be 2. Don't be silly. She became ill. They felt angry. It got cold. He seemed anxious and upset. Note that adjectives are called attributive before nouns and predicative after linking verbs. When you use more than one adjective before a noun, there is a typical order. We usually put emphasizing adjectives before describing adjectives. 3. And both of these before classifying adjectives. 4. 3. The weather has been our principal recent concern. Her necklace had real red rubies in it. Her necklace had real red rubies in it. 4. Kenya was the sole African representative. The recent economic news is encouraging. Some adjectives are typically used after a linking verb, but not before a noun. Some adjectives are typically used after a linking verb, not before a noun. 5. The old man is asleep. The girl seemed glad. Not the asleep man, but the man is asleep. Not the glad girl, but the girl seemed glad. Others include afraid, alike, alive, alone, ashamed, awake, ill, well. In some expressions, we put the adjective after the noun, 6, or after an indefinite pronoun, 7, 6. 6 feet tall, 2 meters deep, 2 years old, notably, notably, the time available. 7. Someone nice, anything unusual, everything necessary, nothing new, not new nothing, but nothing new. 6. In the text on page 110, find two examples of a describing adjective and a classifying adjective used together. Ancient Chinese, large wood, heavy wood, soft natural. The ancient The ancient Chinese art of feng shui has been adopted by modern designers as a way of creating environments which feel comfortable and harmonious. Originally developed as a means of planning the perfect agricultural system in harmony with the forces of nature, feng shui has been used for centuries to improve the physical surroundings in which people live and to maintain balance in their lives. Those principles of feng shui that are beneficial in the organization of outdoor environments can also be used in the design of areas inside the house, such as the bedroom, which is considered to be the most important room in the house. Finding the best position for the bed is very important. The main rule of bed positioning is never to have the foot of the bed directly facing the door. That is what is known as the death position. Traditionally, the dead were laid out with their feet pointing towards the door to give them better access to heaven. It also made it easier for the living to carry them out. Ideally, you should position the bed diagonally opposite the door, with the head against the wall, not a window. Avoid putting the bed directly under a horizontal beam that seems to cut across the sleeper. Such a position is believed to cause headaches and even illness. Small tables on both sides, not just one side, at the head of the bed help maintain balance, but it is best to avoid cluttering the room with a lot of furniture. Let air flow easily through the space. Those large heavy wooden wardrobes, often with boxes or suitcases stored on top, are a really bad idea. As they tower over the bed, they can make the sleeper feel vulnerable and cause a restless sleep. Do not position tables or other furniture with pointed edges facing the sleeper, as their negative energy will cause health problems.
The bedroom should be kept as a relaxing space and should not be used for work or as an office. There should be a feeling of lightness, not seriousness, in the air. Blue curtains and bed covers are more soothing than brown ones. Soft natural materials are recommended. With feng shui in your bedroom, you can create a peaceful sanctuary from the stresses of contemporary living. Punctuation. There is usually no punctuation between two or more different types of adjectives before a noun. 8. We normally put a comma between describing adjectives in a set of two or more of the same type, especially those representing opinions where the order could easily be changed. We normally put a comma between describing adjectives in a set of two or more of the same type, especially those representing opinions where the order could easily be changed. 9. 8. Anders works in a lovely old Victorian building. His office has big black leather chairs. His office has big black leather chairs. 9. She likes wild, vivid, flash designs. He was just a normal, quiet, rather shy teenager. We put and between two colors, 10, or between two classifying adjectives of the same type, 11. 10. I lost my blue and white scarf. He wore a red and black cap. Not a small and black cap, but a small black cap, or a red and black cap. 11. She likes Greek and Lebanese food. She likes Greek and Lebanese food. We discussed financial and educational topics. We put and between adjectives after linking verbs. It's small and black. Not it's small black, but it's small and black. We normally put a comma between the first two adjectives and the word and between the last two adjectives in a set of three colors, 12, or three classifying adjectives of the same type, 13. 12. The flag had black, green, and yellow stripes. The tulips were yellow, orange, and red. 13. In recent years, the island has experienced social, political, and economic problems. In recent years, the island has experienced social, political, and economic problems. 7. Add commas or the word and where necessary to these sentences. 1. The flags of Britain and the USA both have red, white, and blue designs. 2. He described the wonderful, friendly, outgoing people who worked in the little Italian cafe. He described the wonderful, friendly, outgoing people who worked in the little Italian cafe. 3. You immediately noticed the large plastic vases with pink and purple flowers on every table. 4. There are many industrial and agricultural applications of the new chemical compound. 5. What are the cultural, religious, and historic origins of these current regional conflicts? Page number 113. 8. Most of these sentences have adjectives in the wrong position. Write correct versions. Examples. I was looking for a plastic little spoon. I was looking for a little plastic spoon. There are excellent indoor facilities here. There are excellent indoor facilities here. 1. The German entire team played well. The entire German team played well. 2. The wine made a red small stain. The wine made a small red stain. 3. There's new nothing in the Christian main values. There's nothing new in the main Christian values. 4. You will need hiking leather comfortable boots. You will need comfortable leather hiking boots. You will need comfortable leather hiking boots. 5. It has a pointed long stem with tiny pink flowers. It has a long pointed stem with tiny pink flowers. 6. The windows are in circular wooden huge frames. The windows are in huge circular wooden frames. The windows are in huge circular wooden frames. 7. They are the northern industrial major nations. They are the major northern industrial nations. They are the major northern industrial nations. 8. I love those marvelous new Italian designs. I love those marvelous new Italian designs. I love those marvelous new Italian designs. 9. They found a rocking, beautiful antique chair. They found a beautiful antique rocking chair. They found a beautiful antique rocking chair. 10. Her alone mother was in the chaos total. Her mother was alone in the total chaos. Her mother was alone in the total chaos. 11. The old public swimming pool is closed. The old public swimming pool is closed. 12. We like economic recent American policies. We like recent American economic policies. 9. Using a dictionary if necessary, add one set of adjectives in the best order to each definition. Northern, sharp, cool, thin, prickly, juicy, large, tropical, yellow. Similar, white, rare, large, black. Bluish gray, great, hard, shiny white, small. Panda, a large rare black and white animal similar to a bear. Pearl, a small hard shiny white or bluish gray ball that formed inside some oysters and is of great value as a jewel. A small hard shiny white or bluish gray ball that formed inside some oysters and is of great value as a jewel. Pine, a tree that produces cones and has thin, sharp leaves throughout the year. Pines grow in cool northern regions. Pines grow in cool northern regions. Pine, a tree that produces cones and has thin, sharp leaves throughout the year. Pines grow in cool northern regions. Pineapple, a large tropical fruit with juicy yellow flesh and a prickly skin. A large tropical fruit with juicy yellow flesh and a prickly skin. 10. Complete this text with these sets of adjectives in the best order. Add and or punctuation if necessary. English older, Italian green, big plastic square, great little outdoor, European southern, Spanish sheep, carefree, crazy, happy, sour, twisted. Some people like to talk a lot about food and restaurants they go to. I have a friend called Lee who lectures on Italian and Greek history at the university. He gets very excited when he describes a great little outdoor cafe in Rome and all the carefree, crazy, happy people who worked there. I also remember listening to an older English woman who is a professor of Southern European literature, complaining about how Spanish dishes are served in some places with cheap Spanish wine from big scale plastic boxes. I also remember listening to an older English woman who is a professor of Southern European literature, complaining about how Spanish dishes are served in some places with cheap Spanish wine from big scale plastic boxes. When she speaks about it, her mouth becomes sour and twisted, as if she were reliving the terrible experience. When she speaks about it, her mouth becomes sour and twisted, as if she were reliving the terrible experience. Page number 114. Participle adjectives, compound adjectives, and adjectives as nouns. Participle adjectives. We use adjectives derived from present participles, applied, to describe the source or cause of an action or feeling. 1. We use adjectives derived from past participles, applied, to describe the ones affected by the action or feeling. We use adjectives derived from past participles, surprised, to describe the ones affected by the action or feeling. 2. 1. The news was surprised. The teacher drew a very confusing diagram on the board. The teacher drew a very confusing diagram on the board. 2. My parents were surprised. The confused student said that they couldn't understand it. You can treat people or other living things as the source of a feeling. He's boring, or the ones affected by it. I'm bored. 3. We treat non-living things as the source only. It's boring. 4. 3. Darwin was a fascinating person. I was disappointed. Why is the dog getting so excited? 4. Mars is a fascinating planet. Mars is a fascinating planet. The news was disappointing. Not the news was disappointed, but the news was disappointing. 11. Choose an ending from A to D for each beginning from 1 to 4 and add participle adjectives from these verbs. Choose an ending from A to D for each beginning from 1 to 4 and add participle adjectives from these verbs. Astonish, exhaust, irritate, worry. 1. I think it's very irritating when students come in late. 2. Mrs. Barnett seemed worried that she might not have enough money. Mrs. Barnett seemed worried that she might not have enough money. 3. They were really exhausted after they had walked 10 miles. They were really exhausted after they had walked 10 miles. 4. The astonishing tricks of magicians are revealed in a new book. The astonishing tricks of magicians are revealed in a new book. Compound adjectives. Compound adjectives can consist of an adjective, adverb, or noun, and either a present participle or a past participle. 5. Compounds with present participles are often based on active verbs. 6. Compounds with past participles are often based on passive verbs. 7. 5. I'm in slow-moving traffic. I'm in slow-moving traffic. Was it a well-planned trip? Was it a well-planned trip? Was it a well-planned trip? Not a planned well trip, but a well-planned trip. 6. Modern Maid is the name of a house cleaning service. Adjective house cleaning means a service which cleans houses. Modern Maid is the name of a house cleaning service. 7. I'd really like a home-cooked meal for a change. Adjective home-cooked means a meal which is cooked at home. I'd really like a home-cooked meal for a change. Others include energy saving, life-threatening, low fate, urgently needed, well-trained. There are some compound adjectives which consist of combinations of adjectives and nouns, 8, or adverbs and adjectives, 9. There are some compound adjectives which consist of combinations of adjectives and nouns. 8. Or adverbs and adjectives. 9. 8. He likes fast food restaurants. Let's try to get front row seats. Let's try to get front row seats. Do you have a full-time job? 9. Abortion is a highly sensitive issue. There are a lot of politically independent voters. There are a lot of politically independent voters. Adjectives as nouns. We can use some adjectives after the as nouns to talk about specific groups of people in society. These noun phrases are plural without s. 10. The rich aren't happier than the poor. The disadvantaged should be cared for by the wealthy. Note that we can also say for people or a for person, not the poor or a poor, but the poor. We can also use the before adjectives describing nationality, Italian, French, to talk about the people, their government, their national team, etc. These noun phrases are plural, but we don't add s to words ending in sh, sh, se, ss. These noun phrases are plural, but we don't add s to words ending in sh, sh, se, ss. 11. The Italians are here, and the French have also agreed to send a peacekeeping force. The United Nations proposal has support from the Spanish, Japanese, and the Swiss. The United Nations proposal has support from the Spanish, the Japanese, and the Swiss. We use some adjectives after the to talk about an abstract idea. We use some adjectives after the to talk about an abstract idea. These noun phrases are singular. 12. The unknown isn't the same as the impossible. In sports, the unpredictable often happens. Page number 115. 12. Add these adjectives to the text. Amazed, amazing, annoyed, annoying, bored, boring, interested, interesting. Monday was a school holiday, and unfortunately it rained all day, so the children kept telling me they were bored, and there was nothing interesting to do at home. I was trying to write up some of my reports, but they kept interrupting me every 5 minutes, and just became very annoying. I'm amazed that their teachers can keep them busy and interested in their lessons every day. After only one morning with them, I was extremely annoyed because of the constant noise and squabbling. I was ready to throw them out in the rain. Instead, I decided to take them to the cinema. It's really amazing to see how calm they can become in a dark cinema. The film seemed rather boring, but at least it kept them quiet. 13. Make appropriate compound adjectives from each pair of words and add them to the sentences. Distance, long, and, never. Grow fast, keep peace. Educate well, funny look. Home make, wash white. Example, Ghana has to increase food imports to meet the needs of a fast-growing population. Ghana has to increase food imports to meet the needs of a fast-growing population. 1. Mrs. Baxter offered us scones with cream and her homemade jam. 2. Please don't use this phone to make any long-distance calls. Please don't use this phone to make any long-distance calls. Please don't use this phone. Please don't use this phone to make any long-distance calls. 3. Soldiers have to learn to talk rather than fight when they are sent on peacekeeping missions. 4. The president's wife seemed to have a never-ending supply of new shoes and handbags. 5. We have to invest more in schools and teachers if we want to have a well-educated population. We have to invest more in schools and teachers if we want to have a well-educated population. 6. That funny-looking piece of cloth at the end of each sleeve is called a frill. 7. We rented a small cottage in Devon with a red-tiled roof and whitewashed walls. We rented a small cottage in Devon with a red-tiled roof and whitewashed walls. 14. Editing. Correct the mistakes in this text. Sometimes I wonder what people in other countries think about us. We are no longer among the rich and powerful of Europe. We are no longer among the rich and powerful of Europe. In a very short period, we seem to have turned into the poor and weak. The situation is appalling. You cannot walk down a street in our cities without seeing the homeless, the unemployed stand around on our street corners. The unemployed stand around on our street corners. The old and sick receive no help. Why are we no longer shocked that this is going on? Is it like this everywhere? Do the Japanese and the Canadians have the same problems? I doubt it. The unthinkable has happened here, and we must do something about it soon. Page number 116. Position of adverbs. Adverbs of place, time, frequency, expectation, focus. Position of adverbs. We usually put adverbs immediately before the adjectives and adverbs they modify. We usually put adverbs immediately before the adjectives and adverbs they modify. 1. It's nearly complete. Is it politically correct? She did it fairly easily. He spoke very quietly. When you use adverbs to modify verbs and sentences, we can put them in front or end position of the clause or sentence, too. We can also put adverbs in middle position after be or an auxiliary verb, 3, and before the main verb, 4. 2. Usually, I have a piece of toast and orange juice in the morning. I might have a snack later. 3. Some people are always hungry when they wake up. I've never wanted to eat breakfast in bed. 4. I really prefer to wait a while before eating. I sometimes drink coffee. Note that we don't put adverbs between a verb and its object. Not I drink sometimes coffee. Not I drink sometimes coffee, but I sometimes drink coffee. I sometimes drink coffee. Adverbs of place and time, nearby, tomorrow, etc. We use adverbs of place such as nearby and upstairs to add information on location or direction. 5. Usually in end position and before adverbs of time such as recently and tomorrow. 6. 5. He waited nearby while she took the money and went upstairs. I slept and fell backwards. I slipped and fell backwards. 6. You must leave here immediately. I'll be there tomorrow. I haven't been abroad recently. I haven't been abroad recently. Adverbs of frequency. Adverbs of frequency. Adverbs of frequency. Annually, usually, etc. We usually put adverbs of definite frequency such as annually, daily, and twice in end position. 7. And adverbs of indefinite frequency such as ever, often, and usually in mid position. 8. 7. The contract is renewed annually. The contract is renewed annually. Rooms are cleaned daily. I've seen that film twice. 8. We often have to work late. We often have to work late. It usually rains in the evening. 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 Doesn't he ever study? Doesn't he ever study? Expectation adverbs. Already, still, etc. We use expectation adverbs to express a connection between events and expectations. We use already to indicate that an event is earlier than expected, usually in mid or end position. 9. His plane has already arrived. Mrs. Black had left already. Not already, Mrs. Black had left, but Mrs. Black had left already. We use still to say that something is going on longer than expected, usually in mid position. 10. We are still waiting. I still bite my nails when I'm nervous. Paul still avoids crowds. We use no longer and not any longer or not anymore when an event was expected to continue but did not. We usually put them in mid or end position. 11. When we put no longer in front position. 12. We must use inversion, the auxiliary verb before the subject. 11. It no longer works. We could not stay there any longer. We could not stay there any longer. She doesn't live here anymore. She doesn't live here anymore. 12. No longer do the fishing boats come in large groups to Rochefine for the herring season. No longer do the fishing boats come in large groups to Rochefine for the herring season. We use yet, meaning up to now, to show that an event is or was expected. We usually put yet at the end of questions, negatives, and expressions of uncertainty. We usually put yet at the end of questions, negatives, and expressions of uncertainty. 13. Have you read it yet? Classes haven't started yet. I'm not sure if it's finished yet. Focus adverbs, even, just, only. We use the focus adverbs, even, just, and only, to draw attention to one part of the sentence. 14. She was only joking. He can't even swim. Her research isn't just about English. We can change the focus and the meaning when you change the position of these adverbs. 15. Mark only works here on Fridays. Mark works only Fridays, not other days. Only Mark works here on Fridays. Only Mark, not other people, works here on Fridays. Page number 117. 15. Rewrite these sentences with the adverbs in more appropriate positions. Rewrite these sentences with the adverbs in more appropriate positions. 1. We thought we had started early our hike, but already other people had left the campsite. We thought we had started our hike early, but other people had already left the campsite. We thought we had started our hike early, but other people had left the campsite already. 2. The workers get paid usually weekly, but they haven't been yet paid for last week. The workers get paid usually weekly, but they haven't been yet paid for last week. The workers usually get paid weekly, but they haven't been paid for last week yet. The workers usually get paid weekly, but they haven't yet been paid for last week. 3. Still, the students hadn't completed all their work when they had to leave yesterday here. The students still hadn't completed their work. The students still hadn't completed all their work when they had to leave here yesterday. The students still hadn't completed all their work when they had to leave here yesterday. 4. Alice lived recently here, but she doesn't here anymore live. Alice lived here recently, but she doesn't live here anymore. Alice lived here recently, but she doesn't live here anymore. 5. We used to hear hardly ever them, but they've become lately noise, really. We used to hear hardly ever them, but they've become lately noise, really. We used to hardly ever hear them, but they've become really noise lately. We used to hardly ever hear them, but lately they've become really noise. We hardly ever used to hear them, but lately they've become really noise. We hardly ever used to hear them, but they've become really noise lately. 16. Add this adverb to this text. Add this adverb to this text. Always, ever, no longer, only, outside, recently, sometimes, today, twice, yet. Actress and model Vivian Tavenat is always the center of attention wherever she goes, and her appearance in a London boutique this morning was no exception. But her big smile isn't only for the crowd of photographers waiting outside today. She's enjoying her life these days and is no longer concerned about old romances or bad reviews. Tanebad has won the Best Actress award twice, but that hasn't stopped her from working on new and sometimes unusual films. This is an excellent time. This is an excellent time, she said recently in an interview with Celebrity Life magazine. I think that my life is the best it's ever been. The good news for all you Vivian Tavenard fans is that you may not have seen her best work yet. The good news for all you Vivian Tavenard fans is that you may not have seen her best work yet. 17. Using a dictionary if necessary, rewrite each of the 17. Using a dictionary if necessary, rewrite each of the sentences with one of these adverbs instead of just, plus any other necessary changes. Almost, exactly, now, only, 2 times, simply, very, very recently, very recently. Example, they just weren't paying attention. They simply weren't paying attention. 1. The couple had just got married. The couple had very recently got married. The couple had very recently got married. Or the couple had got married very recently. 2. The baby looks just like her mother. The baby looks exactly like her mother. 3. He isn't just an athlete, he's a scholar too. He isn't only an athlete, he's a scholar too. 4. Wait for us, we are just coming. Wait for us, we are coming now. Wait for us, we are coming now. 5. Lunch is just about ready. Lunch is almost ready. 6. Wear this silly hat. It's just for fun. Wear this silly hat. It's only for fun. Page number 118. Adverb. Degree, manner, viewpoint, comment. Degree adverbs. Really, very, etc. We use degree adverbs. We use degree adverb to say to what extent something is done or felt. We use some degree adverbs, such as really or completely, in mid-position or end position in sentences. 1. He totally forgot. She really hates fish. We failed completely. Prices increased moderately. We usually use some degree adverbs, such as pretty, quite, or rather, before adjectives and adverbs, too. We can also use the phrases a bit and a little as degree adverbs before adjectives and adverbs. 3. But we don't use them with adjectives before nouns. 2. They are pretty good. It's quite tasty. Isn't it rather cold in here? Isn't it rather cold in here? We listened very carefully. 3. She's feeling a little tired. The music is a bit loud. Not it's a bit loud music, but it's a bit loud. Or the music is a bit loud. We don't use very before verbs. I'm not enjoying it very much. Not I'm not very enjoying it, but I'm not enjoying it very much. We can use more or less and most or least as degree adverbs in comparative and in superlative. We can use more or less and most or least as degree adverbs in comparatives and superlatives. 4. Going by train can be more convenient than flying in Europe, and it's usually less expensive. We also use to before adjectives and adverbs and enough after them. 5. It's too difficult. He spoke too quietly. Is this box big enough? Is this box big enough? You didn't leave early enough. You didn't leave early enough. Manner adverbs. Carefully, quickly, etc. We use manner adverbs to say how something is done. We usually put them in end position. 6. I will read it carefully. He writes clearly. He writes clearly. They searched the room quickly and thoroughly. Note that we put manner before time. She works hard now. Not she works now hard, but she works hard now. Manner adverbs are sometimes used, especially in novels, to describe how something was said. 7. I have a torch. Just follow me, she said nervously. I would follow you to the end of the world, he whispered hoarsely in reply. Others include angrily, anxiously, cheerfully, gloomily, impatiently, passionately, seriously. Viewpoint adverbs, commercially, socially, etc. Commercially, socially, etc. We use viewpoint adverbs to describe the perspective or point of view being considered. We usually put them in end position 8 or in front position with a comma. 9. We usually put them in end position 8 or in front position with a comma. 9. 8. It did well commercially. They are working individually. It was not done scientifically. It was not done scientifically. 9. Financially, the project makes sense. Psychologically and socially, it's a terrible idea. Comment adverbs. Probably, surprising, etc. Probably, surprising, etc. We use comment adverbs to include a comment or opinion about what is being said or read. We can use some of them such as probably in mid-position, but we usually put comment adverbs such as surprising or of course in front or end position with commas. We can use some of them such as probably in mid-position, but we usually put comment adverbs such as surprisingly or of course in front or end position with commas. 10. It was probably a misunderstanding. Surprisingly, he failed. I will refund the cost, of course. We can use comment adverbs such as definitely and obviously to say how sure we are. 11. And others such as fortunately and seriously to say how we feel. 12. 11. I will definitely call you tonight. Obviously, someone forgot to lock the door. Obviously, someone forgot to lock the door. 12. Fortunately, no one was injured in the crash. We are seriously thinking about moving to the country. We are seriously thinking about moving to the country. Others include, actually, apparently, certainly, frankly, honestly, no doubt, presumably, sadly. Page number 119. Page number 119. 18. Write each sentence with one pair of adverbs added in appropriate positions. Write each sentence with one pair of adverbs added in appropriate positions. Carefully, tomorrow, completely, completely, yesterday, enough, really, too, very much. I, I forgot my brother's birthday. I forgot my brother's birthday. I completely forgot my brother's birthday yesterday. I completely forgot my brother's birthday yesterday. Or, yesterday I completely forgot my brother's birthday. Or, I forgot my brother's birthday completely yesterday. 2. The piano is large and our doorway isn't wide. The piano is really large and our doorway isn't wide enough. 3. We enjoyed the trip. But it was expensive. We enjoyed the trip, but it was expensive. We enjoyed the trip very much, but it was too expensive. Or, we very much enjoyed the trip, but it was too expensive. 4. I will read the report. I will read the report. I will read the report carefully tomorrow. Or, I will carefully read the report tomorrow. Or, tomorrow I will read the report carefully. Or, tomorrow I will carefully read the report. Tomorrow I will carefully read the report. 19. Choose an ending from A to F for each beginning from 1 to 6 and add these adverbs. Angrily, casually, enough, extremely, of course, traditionally, carelessly, completely, even, individually, only, very. 1. Traditionally, marriages were arranged, but that completely changed now. Traditionally, marriages were arranged, but that completely changed now. 2. There was only one ticket left, and everyone wanted it, of course. 3. He did the test so carelessly. He didn't even finish part of it. He did the test so carelessly. He didn't even finish part of it. 4. Individually, each player is good, but they don't play well enough as a team. 5. Although he was dressed casually, he wasn't very relaxed. 6. Because he was extremely annoyed, he started complaining angrily. 20. Add these adverbs to this text. Add these adverbs to this text. Actually, certainly, nervously, probably, still, uncontrollably, apparently, completely, of course, seriously, very, unfortunately. You've seen the ghost? I asked. More than once, the old man replied. Actually, I have a photograph. Want to see it? This is absurd, I thought, but asked. You took a photo of the ghost? No, not me. It's a photo of Lady Barnett from an old newspaper report of her death. She's wearing a long white gown, almost certainly the same one she wears when she appears at night. He said all this very seriously, as if it was solid evidence for the truth of his ghostly tale. He said all this very seriously, as if it was solid evidence for the truth of his ghostly tale. She was rich, and unfortunately for her, she was murdered for her money. It all happened about 10 years ago. The police thought it was her husband who did it. He disappeared soon after. They found him later, locked in a small basement room. His hair had turned completely white, and his eyes were wide open. He was dead, of course. He was clutching the key to Lady Barnett's safe deposit box in the bank. I think her ghost had probably found him and had scared him to death. I think her ghost had probably found him and had scared him to death. Oh my God! And she's still here? I found myself stuttering uncontrollably. I found myself stuttering uncontrollably. Oh yes, I think she still. Oh yes, she. I think. Oh yes, I think she still walks through the house in search of his mysteries. Oh yes, I think she still walks through the house in search of his mysteries. She only appeared when there's a new woman in the house. Apparently, her husband was in love with another woman, and he just wanted Lady Bannet's money so he could run away with her. Apparently, her husband was in love with another woman, and he just wanted Lady Bannet's money so he could run away with her. What happened to the mysteries? I asked rather nervously, looking round the dark room. Nobody knows, he answered, but if I was her, I'd stay far away from this house. Page number 120. Equatives, comparatives, and superlatives. Equatives. Equatives are marked by as or not as. We use adjectives and adverbs in equatives to say that a first 1, thing 2, or action 3 is similar or not to another in some way. 1. She's as tall as her father. I'm as hungry as a horse. He's not as young as he looks. 2. The van was as big as a house. His new book is not as interesting as his other one. 3. I came as soon as possible. Right as fast as you can. It didn't do as well as we had hoped. It didn't do as well as we had hoped. Not she's as tall her father, but she's as tall as her father. Not right fast as you can, but right as fast as you can. Not it didn't do well we had hoped, but it didn't do as well as we had hoped. It didn't do as well as we had hoped. We can use focus adverbs such as just and only before equatives. 4. We sometimes use not so as for the negative. 5. 4. Our friend is just as good as theirs. You are only as old as you feel. He's not even as tall as her. 5. This year's harvest wasn't so bad as last year's. He's not so arrogant as he used to be. Note the use of equatives with a singular noun. He's not as good a teacher as Mrs. Marshall. He's not as good teacher as Mrs. Marshall, but he's not as good a teacher as Mrs. Marshall. He's not as a good teacher as her, but he's not as good a teacher as her. Comparatives. We change adjectives and adverbs to say that a person 6, a thing 7, or an action 8 has more or less of a quality than another. We change adjectives and adverbs to say that a person 6, a thing 7, or an action 8 has more or less of a quality than another. We put more or less before long forms and add er to short forms. 6. She's more intelligent than him. She's also more interesting. He's slower than a snail. 7. Some ideas are less practical than others. His flat is smaller and cheaper than ours. 8. I should practice more often. She always finishes her work faster than me. Subject pronouns are sometimes used after than, faster than I, but they sound very formal. She always finished her work faster than I. We can treat adjectives such as friendly or quiet as either long formed 9 or short formed 10. 9. Our neighbors have become more friendly recently. The boys seem more quiet than usual. 10. Everyone was friendlier this time. My new office is quieter than the old one. My new office is quieter than the old one. Others include clever, common, crazy, likely, lonely, narrow, simple, untied, yellow. We use special forms for the comparative of good, well, and bad, badly. 11. We use further from far for distance and when you mean additional. 12. Farther is only used for distance. 11. I thought the weather would be better in July, but it actually got worse. 12. How much further do we have to walk? Or how much further do we have to walk? We hope to get further details of the plan soon. We hope to get further details of the plan soon. We can use comparative forms repeated with "and" to emphasize that something is increasing or decreasing. We can use comparative forms repeated with "and" to emphasize that something is increasing or decreasing. 13. We use the plus comparative to say that one development is connected to another. 14. 13. We meet more and more frequently. We meet more and more frequently. It's less and less common. Alice got taller and taller. 14. The sooner we leave, the faster we'll get there. The older I get, the crazier everything seems. Superlatives. We can use adjectives and adverbs to say that people 15 or things and actions 16 have the most or least of a quality. We can use adjectives and adverbs to say that people 15 or things and actions 16 have the most or least of a quality. We put the most or the least before long forms and add est to short forms. 15. He is the most likely to succeed. It's the least dangerous. She's one of the cleverest students. 16. Where's the most beautiful beach in the world? That's the simplest question of all. The least popular subject is algebra. I was sure my golf ball had landed nearest to the hole. Note the special forms for good, well, best, bad, badly, worst, and far, farthest, furthest. After superlatives, we use in or on, not of, before singular words for groups 17 or places 18. 17. Alan is the youngest student in the class. Alan is the youngest student in the class. I'm the tallest in my family. 18. He's the best player in the world. I think we stayed in the worst hotel on the island. I think we stayed in the worst hotel on the island. Not he's the best player of the world, but he's the best player in the world. Page number 121. 21. Write the most appropriate forms of adjectives and adverbs from one set in each sentence. Bad, skilled, well. Early, new, well-behaved, easy, short, well-known, beautiful, different, quick, fast, old, tall, good, likely, long. 1. The longer you wait, the more likely you are to miss the best bargains in the sale. 2. Our oldest son is taller than his dad, but our other two haven't grown as fast. 3. The new group of students is better behaved than that other group who stayed here earlier. 4. His best notebook is shorter and easier to read than all the others. 5. There are several different ways to get to the most beautiful beach on the other side of the island, but the quickest way is by boat. 6. I can't play as well as most of the others, but I'm not the worst player or the least skilled of all those who want to participate. I can't play as well as most of the others, but I'm not the worst player or the least skilled of all those who want to participate. 22. Complete this first paragraph of an essay about fast food with these adjectives and adverbs. Complete this first paragraph of an essay about fast food with these adjectives and adverbs. Better, puzzled, as quickly as, more easily, the best, faster, smaller, less beneficial, more wasteful, the most important. When did we decide that more convenient is the best way to choose between two different things to eat? When did we decide that more convenient is the best way to choose between two different things to eat? Why do people now want food as quickly as possible in containers that are more easily thrown away? How did faster is better become our slogan? Don't you see that this is less beneficial and much more wasteful than making our own food? Don't you see that this is less beneficial and much more wasteful than making our own food? Is it because we want food to have a much smaller place in our lives? Is it because we want food to have a much smaller place in our lives? But isn't food one of the most important things? Am I the only one who is puzzled by this? 23. Editing. Correct the mistakes in this text. In one experiment, students were asked to look at photographs of people and choose the best words and phrases to describe them. The students didn't know that the researchers had chosen the photographs to represent two groups. The students didn't know that the researchers had chosen the photographs to represent two groups. In Group A, they put the best looking of all the people whose photographs were used. For Group B, they chose people who they decided were not as attractive as those in Group A. According to the students, the people in Group A were warmer, kinder, more exciting, and more sensitive than those in Group B. Also, Group A would find higher paid jobs, have more successful marriages, and lead happier lives than Group B. The women in Group A were considered to have more appealing personalities and to be more socially skilled than the Group B women, but also to be more vain, more materialistic, more snobbish, and more likely to get divorced than them. Interestingly, the students decided that Group A would be worse parents than Group B. Page number 122. Test. A. Choose the word or phrase that best completes each sentence. 1. I'm not as good a swimmer as my sister. 2. Is St. Paul's the oldest cathedral in Britain? Is St. Paul's the oldest cathedral in Britain? 3. When we heard the good news, we were delighted. 4. I'm waiting up here with Tony, but Sandra has already gone. I left the book on the table. Presumably, someone else has borrowed it. B. Identify the one underlined expression A, B, C, or D that must be changed in order to correct the sentence. 1. I stared into the long rectangular black hole, 6 feet deep, and shuddered. I stared into the long rectangular black hole, 6 feet deep, and shuddered. 2. After the first real attack started, some soldiers who were afraid didn't want to fight anymore, so they just surrendered. After the first real attack started, some soldiers who were afraid didn't want to fight anymore, so they just surrendered. 3. I get up early, shower first, then I usually drink some tea and get dressed as fast as I can. I get up early, shower first, then I usually drink some tea and get dressed as fast as I can. 4. We all agree that some tests are not difficult enough and others are just too hard. 5. The Dutch are playing the Italians first, and then the Spanish and the Portuguese play. The Dutch are playing the Italians first, and then the Spanish and the Portuguese play. C. Add one pair of adjectives adverb to each sentence in this text. Already, never. Black, round. Easier, eventually. Further, just. Longer, reading. Short, suddenly. 1. I know I'm already in my 40s, but I never imagined that I would need glasses. I know I'm already in my 40s, but I never imagined that I would need glasses. 2. I just kept trying to read the newspaper by holding it further away. I just kept trying to read the newspaper by holding it further away. 3. I really had to decide whether to get longer arms or a pair of reading glasses. 4. Eventually, I chose the easier solution. 5. Suddenly, with my new glasses, those short wiggly lines at the top of the page turned into words. 6. And the round black spots that seemed to dance on the floor became ants. And the round black spots that seemed to dance on the floor became ants. Page number 123. D. Complete each sentence in such a way that it is as similar as possible in meaning to the sentence above it. 1. We all thought they organized the event well, and we were all excited by it. We all thought they organized the event well, and we were all excited by it. Everyone thought the event was well organized and exciting. 2. You will get there quicker if you leave here earlier. The earlier you leave here, the quicker you will get there. 3. Mark is a good cook, but David is a better cook. Mark is not as good a cook as David. Mark is a good cook, but David is a better cook. Mark is not as good a cook as David. Mark is not as good a cook as David. 4. Do you have any scarves? I'm looking for one that's woolen, green, and fairly long. I'm looking for one that's woolen, green, and fairly long. I'm looking for a fairly long green woolen scarf. I'm looking for a fairly long green woolen scarf. E. Choose the most appropriate word from each pair for each space. Choose the most appropriate word from each pair for each space. Choose the most appropriate word from each pair for each space. Acute or acutely. Color or colored. Far or further. Just or only. Pleased or pleasing. Certain or certainly. Early or earlier. Japan or Japan or Japanese. Japan or Japanese. Japan or Japanese. Now or yet. Young or youngest. One evening in the spring of 1936, when I was a boy of 14, my father took me to a dance performance in Kyoto. I remember only two things about it. The first is that he and I were the only Westerners in the audience. We had come from our home in the Netherlands only a few weeks earlier. So I had not yet adjusted to the cultural isolation and still felt it acutely. The first is that he and I were the only Westerners in the audience. We had come from our home in the Netherlands only a few weeks earlier. So I had not yet adjusted to the cultural isolation and still felt it acutely. The second is how pleased I was, after months of intensive study of the Japanese language, to find that I could now understand fragments of the conversations I overheard. As for the young Japanese women dancing on the stage before me, I remember nothing of them except a vague impression of brightly colored kimono. As for the young Japanese women dancing on the stage before me, I remember nothing of them except a vague impression of a brightly colored kimono. As for the young Japanese women dancing on the stage before me, I remember nothing of them except a vague impression of a brightly colored kimono. I certainly had no way of knowing that in a time and place as far as away as New York City nearly 50 years in the future. I certainly had no way of knowing that in a time and place as far away as New York City nearly 50 years in the future, one among them would become my good friend and would dictate her extraordinary memoirs to me. Extraordinary memoirs to me. Extraordinary. Dictate her extraordinary memoirs to me. I certainly had no way of knowing that in a time and place as far away as New York City, nearly 50 years in the future, one among them would become my good friend and would dictate her extraordinary memoirs to me.